Hey, did a video last week on what I called the retirement crisis, and I kind of scanned over the whole element of it. And today I want to kind of focus on the real estate element of it and where I see the crisis occurring and how you can, as a baby boomer, as a retiree, as a millennial, as a Generation Xer, as a real estate agent, how you can react to it. I think that the area I want to speak to first is the higher end of the market, because I think there are two separate markets here. There are those who are trying to sell big expensive homes, and I'm talking here 750,000 and more here in the Birmingham market. Those numbers will be different in whatever your community is. And they're the big luxury homes that are owned for the most part by baby boomers, and they're trying to sell them. Then there on the other end of the market are the smaller homes, the homes that sell for anywhere from 150 to 250,000. And those are going to be bought by the millennials, either as their first or their second home. And so the situation, what I find in the Birmingham market, is entirely different. Let's address where I think the real problem is, and that is up in the high end. Who's going to buy in Birmingham a $1 million home? Well, it's got to be the Generation Xers, because they are the only ones who have that kind of money, potentially. The problem is, though, and it starts early. The problem starts actually on June the 23rd, 1960. That was the day that the Food and Drug Administration authorized the sale of the first birth control pill. As a result of that, the Generation X is 25% smaller than the baby boomer generation. We just didn't have as many children as our parents did. Thus, it's smaller. Then if you follow it through, the Generation X were born basically 1965 through 1985. So if we follow them through their life, we'll see that in 1990, they're 25 years old. They're probably married. They probably have one or two children, and they buy their first home. So that goes well, and the stock market is doing well, because this is just the start of technology introduction. The stock market's doing well. They have been able to maybe save a little bit of money, and they've got a 401k, which they're putting their match in, and they're accumulating some wealth. And then in 2000, we have the dot-com bubble. Well, that slams them down, and they lose most of the money that they have in their 401k. And if they've had any investments, they're tech savvy. They invested in the tech stocks. So they see what they've accumulated just go away. But they still have their home, because remember, grandmother said that real estate is the best investment because God isn't making any more, and it will never go down in value. And they bank on that. So they work hard, and they get themselves up into where they've built some equity in their first home, and they decide they want to buy a second home. But they see there is a real opportunity, because as grandmother said, they aren't making any more real estate, and they decide to take a new mortgage out on their home and take some of their equity and buy a rental property. And he and she fix it up and make it really snazzy, and they get it rented. And the cool thing about it is the bank now offers them a loan with 5% down, and no interest for 5 years. They got a bubble somewhere out there in 5 years that they then have to start paying interest. But we all know that real estate is increasing at a rate and value of roughly 9% a year. So that house is going to be worth probably 50% more than what we paid for it in 2006. Well, we all know then what happens. In 2008, that deal that Wall Street gave them with the zero interest and the 5% bubble that they now have on both their primary home and their rental property goes in the tank. Wall Street sold them a bill of goods. They sold them a bill of goods back there on the dot-coms, and then they sold them a bill of goods on these interest rates that they put together for their houses. They just got crucified for the second time. So now they lose that rental property. They try to pull themselves together. And oh, by the way, the wife was working for a mortgage originator and she lost her job. And so they're struggling. But over the years, through 2010 to 2018, they get back on their feet and they're in a good position. Do you think they want to buy a $1 million home, even if they could? Let me show you what's available to them and where the problem lies. This is a home that I listed for $1.9 million. It had been all the way up to 2.4. We got a lot of traffic, and I marketed it real heavy. I put the video on it, and this is the video that you're watching now. I got the local newspaper to run that on their website. We had over 1,500 views of this house. We got some offers. They were low balls, and my seller, though he knows that house was worth $2.4 million, and he's going to hold on. He hasn't lived in the house for 2 years, and he still hasn't sold it. Now, if that's you and you're a baby boomer and that sounds like you, shame on you. You need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. Do I hold out for my price, or do I sell it for what somebody's willing to pay for it and move on? And the second question is, when you do agree to a price and they come and they find something wrong, do you hold out and not make that $30,000 correction so that you can get your $1.7 million? Or do you dig your heels in and don't give an inch because you know better? Well, that's exactly what happened on this house. Now I want to show you another house, and in the same community. This is a gated community. It has 2 golf courses. The PGA shows up with their senior tournament every year. It is premier. Pools, tennis courts, their own schools. It's premier. This is a house, beautiful house. I think it's magnificent. I like early American style. But let's go inside and take a look. And what you're going to see is a house that is built for the owners. And they're unwilling to make changes. Again, who's going to buy this house? These are trophy houses, folks. You know what a trophy wife is? Why do you get a trophy wife? You get a trophy wife to show all your peer group that you're better than them. You can attract this beautiful woman, and you can help her stay beautiful. Well, that's why you buy a trophy house. Well, the problem with the millennials, number one, they have debt. They don't. And they got all the trophies they needed when they were kids. They aren't interested in trophies. They're interested in a good life. So these $1 million homes, we know who's going to buy them. It's the Generation Xers. And for a lot of reasons, it's also people who want to show their peer group that they have made it. That limits the number of statistics for last year on houses in this kind of community, the gated communities, not downtown, not in the close-in neighborhoods, but the gated communities, and what kind of sales they get. This is for $1 million and more. And what you're going to see is, depending on the neighborhood, they have either a 29 to a 33% chance of selling their home in the current marketplace. Now, like in most cities, we have a community that were built in the 90s with gated communities. These are gated communities that have golf courses and tennis courts, and this is where the baby boomers built. 77 homes came to market last year, 23 sold. Let's call it 30% for 132 days. So you can see these people are in trouble. These are the baby boomers who said, I've made it. I'm in banking. I'm in the financial industry. I'm in technology, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a professional, and I want to go and build a home not near the inner city, but away from the inner city, and I'm okay with a 6-lane highway that gets me to my job. Well, the millennials don't want that. And as you can see, 77 people put their home up for the market, 23 sold. That's a 29.8%. And it took them 138 days, and 20% of them gave up. This number just continues. That's right, a 33% chance. 7 out of 10 homes last year didn't sell in this price category. Now, I don't know that this is the same in every community, but I suspect it is because the demographics are the same. That birth control pill was sold all over the United States. The demographics are the same. The finances are the same. This is why these homes aren't selling. Now, there are pundits that are saying they're never going to sell. In fact, what's going to happen is multifamilies are going to have to live in those houses. You're going to have the combined income of the Generation Xer and the millennial, husband and wife, and maybe 2 kids. You've got 3 families living in this house in order to make this work. That is the projection of what's going to happen in these communities. Now, I don't know what the HOAs are going to do about it, but that's the projection of what's going to happen in these communities. So, that's the retirement crisis for the $1 million and up homes. Now let's take a look at if it's 750. If it goes down to 700, how does that change the situation? What you're going to see is it bumps it up, but still it's around a 50% chance of selling those homes. Now I'm looking again, just in Birmingham, same time frame, for 750,000 and more. And we dropped to 46%. That is a major change. And this is what I want to impress upon you, is that if you're marketing to the millennials, if you're marketing in the lower price range, you've got a good chance of selling your home. But now we're up over 750,000, and you have less than a 50-50 chance. Let's dig a little deeper. Where the market is in the $150,000 to $250,000 home. These are the homes that the millennials are finding a way to get out from under their debt, their student debt, schooling debt, and being able to put together enough money to make a down payment and buy these homes. I'm also seeing this happening with VA loans. A VA can come out in and buy that home with nothing down. Now look at what I would call the homes that the millennials are going to buy, and that's going to be, as their first home, somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000. And let's see what that looks like. Now we see that 1,769 came on the market and 79% of them sold. And this is what you really need to see, is that 31 days on the market. So these sold fast. So we have a very hot real estate market. You only had 6% of them actually expire. That is, they took it off the market, they gave up. So that's a hot market, 79% sales. Let's go back and make a change, and let's raise the price here from 250 to 500,000 and see what we've got. Now we're still up around 76% of those that came on the market, just a little longer time on the market, but they're selling. This is, again, 76% is what I would consider a hot market. and the millennials are industrious enough, they'll come in and fix them up. That won't happen up in that pink house. They aren't going to come in and fix it up. Now, when I listed that, I actually went and got a painter to get me a bid on painting every wall in that house. That's good marketing. That if your agent isn't doing that for you, if you're in this predicament and they aren't doing that, and if they aren't doing video production on your home to get it in front of the people who are interested, you're going to be one of the 7 out of 10 that don't sell it. And then you're going to die and you're going to leave it to your children, and it becomes their problem. Now we have a real problem because the children don't want it and they just want it to turn it into cash. So now we see the bottom fall out of that market because they take a $1.7 million home and they sell it for 1.2. They take a $1.4 million home and they sell it for $700,000. $700,000 is a hell of a lot better than HOA dues, maintenance, heating and cooling every month, property taxes with no homestead deduction. Turn the damn thing into cash. So that's where I see the real problem in all of this. Every market's different, but I think what you're going to find different is the numbers. That I see homes in San Francisco that are 2-bedroom, 1-bath going for $500,000. I read about homes in Seattle that have 4 bedrooms and 3 baths and 3,000 square feet going for $1.5 million. Where I feel the retirement crisis and real estate come together. Now, I'll throw one other variable in there. If the stock market crashes, and I think it's going to crash, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in my next video and why and what needs to happen. If the stock market crashes, folks, everything changes. It's now whoever's first out wins. Because when it crashes, the money that the Generation Xers might have had to buy your $1 million home is going to be gone. This has just gone on too long. It is being, I worked within Wall Street. I didn't work at Wall Street, but I was a financial advisor. Wall Street is a casino. You notice when they open up the stock markets, they ring the bells. Well, that's what they do when the slot machines ring. That's what they do at the crap tables. They ring the bells. And at the end of every day, they clap for themselves. Come on, folks. They took us down the dot-com bubble. They took us down the subprime crisis, what a lot of refer to as the real estate crisis. And now they've got us believing that this stock market is genuine when they took our debt from $8 trillion to $23 trillion. And you lay a Dow Jones chart against the national debt, and I'll be damned if they don't lie right against each other. Folks, they're taking us down the same path. And if you don't get it, if you don't get that they want you to just get further and further into debt, and then they pull the rug out from underneath you, and if you haven't noticed, the rich are getting richer. It used to be the 1%ers. It's now the 0.01%ers. They're the ones who have all the money. And you just keep giving it to them. You just keep playing their game. Well, it's time to wake up and figure out the game is loaded. You go to Las Vegas, you see the size of the buildings. You see all the opulence. You know you can't win. Go to my last video about the U.S. debt clock, usdebtclock.org, and see if that doesn't make you sick to your stomach. See if it doesn't give you a clue as to how the game is rigged. and how someone's leading us down the path for their benefit, not for ours. Watch my video where I told you that the Bezoses just financed the next 10 years of a down market for themselves, for their personal well-being. They know more than you and I do. Take and learn from them. Okay, I'm going to do a video on the retirement crisis, and we're going to talk specifically about the central banks and how they're holding interest rates down so that they can finance their debt and your debt and keep this thing going, and who's behind it and how you need to respond to it. Now, one favor I need to ask, and I am in a race to get to 1 million subscribers on my YouTube channel. There are 16,000 people who have achieved that, and you give me a competition, I'm going after it. My problem is I'm 75 years old. I don't have that much time. So I need you to subscribe. I need to get your grandmother subscribed. I need to get your children subscribed. I need everybody you know and you love to subscribe to this channel and share this information with them. Then I need you to give me a like, a thumbs up. That tells the algorithm of YouTube that people like my channel, and then they'll put it in front of more people, and that'll increase my odds of getting to the millions. So do that for me, and I'll keep doing my thing for you. Thanks.